Our first evaluator is Todd. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Today's first speaker is Scott Whitten. Scott is with the Capital Financial Group based out of Long Beach. And he's speaking his ice-breaking speech. So we're going to get to know all about him and the elements of his life. Let's give a warm round of applause for Scott Whitten.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'd like to thank all of you for giving me this opportunity to speak, and hopefully you'll learn a little bit about me in the process. With a show of hands, how many are familiar with the 5 natural elements: fire, earth, water, metal, wood? Okay, good. Seems like that's a good thing. The natural elements have been defined differently by many cultures to help us understand their function, but their meanings go far further than just a mere label. The traditional Chinese definition of these elements, I like to use that versus any of the other cultures that have defined what are the natural elements. The Chinese define the elements as energy. Energy that is in a state of constant motion and in flux with one another. So today, I'll use a spin on the traditional Chinese definition to exemplify components of my life. Element of fire. Fire is passion. I have a passion for many things. I was hoping to get one of the tabletop questions, but with passion, it comes in many forms. And for me, I love helping others. It's really the way I'm wired up. Helping others with simple things. Walking a dog for an ill neighbor, helping a friend move a sofa, doing things such as getting something off a tall shelf for somebody who's vertically challenged. But bigger things as well. Bigger things like working with Habitat for Humanity, the Susan G. Komen Foundation. I have a lot of breast cancer survivors in my family, so that's very near and dear to my heart. Something as simple as working with Hands Across the Sand, which would be a simple group organization that is there to protect the ocean and by doing a little bit of, let's call it nonviolent protest and letting people know that the oceans are important. But also what's important to me and I have a passion for is family. I come from a very small family. Let's see, 2 of these tables would probably get us just fine. No cousins, 1 sister, very small family. But I married into a very large family. My wife is Hispanic and we have people coming out of the woodwork and I love it. I absolutely love being part of a big family. They've taught me so many things. How to laugh, how not to take myself so seriously as I'm standing here in a suit and tie, but try to have a good time. And the passion for family really has been sparked by becoming part of a large family. Now the next element is the element of the earth. We're all tied to this planet. And I was taught very early on that leave the place, project, anything you're involved in, cleaner, better, or improved. My mother, my grandmothers were all very, very strict on that. And I took it up very early. I started my own recycling program at age 7. Started asking all my neighbors to please leave their newspapers next to the, outside, next to their trash can. Don't put it in the trash can, I'll just come pick them up. And I did that religiously. And it was multiple streets in my housing area where I was growing up. I believed that it was important. I started very young. My wife and I, as mentioned previously, we do shopping. Shopping different than most. We spend a lot of time reading labels and seeing what type of chemicals are in things. We've spent more time on the internet seeing what those ingredients are and how they affect what is actually the byproduct eventually, not only for our own self and our health, but also for the environment. Buying soaps with no sulfides, things like that, which are bad for the ocean. Buying packages in glass containers and not plastic. Again, recyclable. And also, one thing that I do when I travel a lot is bring my own water bottle, even if I'm going through security with TSA. Bring it empty, I can always fill it on the other side. Because when you're traveling, you're thirsty, you're always wanting to buy a bottle of water. I try to help reduce my footprint. Now we're getting into the element of water. Leonardo da Vinci once said that water is the driving force in all of nature. Couldn't agree with him more. Water to me symbolizes peace and tranquility. I'm most centered when I'm either on a body of water or around a body of water. Now, depending on how you feel about astrological signs, I was born in February, which makes me a Pisces and a water sign. Two fish. That's important on several points. One, my first business was an aquarium service company. My first real job was working in fish stores. Anything that swims with fins, as we were mentioning earlier in this day regarding what you know more about than most, I know a lot about fish. But I also love the ocean. I'm a long-time surfer. Spent a lot of time in the water. Now the element of metal. The metal around me and the metal in my life that moves me figuratively and literally is automobiles. I have a passion also for automobiles. Cars convey to me shapes, colors, sounds, very visceral. My first noise as a small child was a car sound. Anything that had wheels on it, Hot Wheels, bikes, skateboards, you name it, that was me. So metal can be many things to many people, but for me, metal happens to be most exemplified in my life as automobiles. Classic cars, all through, up until just about now. I am in between, but classic cars of all types, domestic Ford, you name it, the shapes, the curves of the 1930s French automobile to the fins on a 59 Cadillac, you name it. I know about it and I love it. Now, the next element, of course, is wood. And wood was an interesting one for me to kind of, how does my life relate to wood? I liken wood to versatility. Versatility because, you know, wood can be anything from a simple toothpick to a beam on a large building. And in my life, I have done a lot of different things, so being versatile is important. And I see that my time is coming to a close, so I'll say in closing, the common thread with the elements for me has been stewardship. I see that word as the spirit being woven within all of these elements and through my whole life, leaving it no better, leaving the world that I'm in no worse off, but hopefully better than where I got it. So in keeping with the Chinese tradition of definition of elements as energy in a state of constant change, I like to say that the components of my life, like these elements, are dynamic and not static. Hope our time together has explained a little bit more about me and the natural elements of water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Scott. Scott, October 16th, Laguna Beach Rotary is doing a classic car show. Just wanted you to know. $10 a piece. What I'd like to know is to introduce our next evaluator.
Take time.
Will everyone take a minute to evaluate